Good afternoon.
Yes.
Resolution for the budget ordinance.
On page,
What would that look like?
page 22. Oh, ready, Jimmy? Good afternoon. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Charles City County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Could we please stand? Could we please have a roll call? Excuse me. Roll call.
Board Member Hill,
Present.
Vice Chairman Patterson,
Present.
Chairman Atkins.
Present.
Chairman, we have a quorum.
Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Gentlemen, our first item is approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to make an amendment to the agenda.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda to add item A, which will be to change the reassessment cycle from 4 years to 5 years.
Under the regular agenda, the first item.
Yes, under the regular agenda, item A, which would cause everything to move down.
Thank you. Could we have a motion to approve the minutes, please, from March 24th? Also, we had an adjustment in the agenda. Could we have a motion to approve the adopted agenda, please?
Mr. Chair, we need to make there's a motion on the floor right now to make an amendment to the agenda.
Yes, sir.
I believe there should be a roll call vote for that.
I'm calling for it now.
Okay. Aye.
Ms. Hill?
Aye.
My vote is aye also. Thank you. Now, this time, we'll have approval of the minutes from March 24th.
We do the assessment. Okay, okay, gotcha. Okay. Okay. Is this for the approval of the minutes, right? Okay.
Do we need to adopt the agenda?
No.
We just did.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I motion to approve the minutes.
March 24th.
Yes, sir.
It's your motion, Mr. Patterson.
It is.
Your vote, Mr. Patterson?
Aye.
Your vote, Mr. Hill?
Aye.
My vote is aye also.
All right.
The next item is a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is that your motion, Mr. Patterson?
Yes.
Your vote, Mr. Patterson?
Aye.
Mr. Hill?
Aye.
My vote is out also. Thank you very, very, very much. Madam Clerk, I want to thank you and the gentleman for being at our regular meeting tonight. And I want to thank everybody for their diligence in working through this process. We received a proposed budget book back in March. And since that time, we have numerous discussions and public hearings, including the duly advertised public hearing, which was held in April. Tonight, we are scheduled to approve the budget for fiscal year 2027, consisting of 5 legislative items as detailed in our agenda. I would ask the county administrator to give us a brief explanation of each. After that, we will consider preparation for amendments, and then I will entertain a motion to approve each legislative item. Mr. Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would the board like to deal with the amended item first, and then following action on that, then I'll pick up for the budget?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Patterson?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So the amended item was item A to the regular agenda, which was a motion that passed to change the reassessment cycle from 4 years to 5 years. And let Mr. County Administrator or Mr. Bosch go ahead and brief us on that.
Thank you. So as we have discussed prior to, in public meetings prior to, back in October, the Board of Supervisors extended a contract with Vision Software to conduct and complete the countywide reassessment. This work was to be completed by March the 31st. As of today, the agreed upon deliverables have not been provided to the county. The property value information has been communicated to residents, but that was without the knowledge or verification of the information by county officials. So just to provide a little more context about what is supposed to happen in the reassessment process, the primary deliverable is known as the land book, which contains all the values for the real property. Once the land book is received and notices are sent out, the county must advertise what is called an equalized tax rate, which takes into consideration any values and increases and what the impact that will have on revenues. Then the county must hold a public hearing on the rate as a result of that reassessment. So because of the things that were not completed and the deliverables that were not provided, I think it would be advantageous for us to pause all current reassessment activities until we can hold a meeting with the public to provide the information, till we can work with our contractor to get the required information. And I think delaying any implementation until the board can be provided with the complete information is prudent to do so. And I think that going to a 5-year timeline would certainly keep us in statutory compliance.
Thank you. Is that your motion, Mr. Patterson?
Yes, yes, it is, Mr. Chair. Before we do the call on that, if Mr. Bosch, if you can you just elaborate on just a few of those key points as to the benefits, as to why, well, the benefits and the why we are suggesting change in our reassessment cycle from 4 years to 5 years?
Sure. So the code allows a county of our size to do, the normal default is a 4-year, but we can adjust it to a 5 or a 6-year just by board action. It doesn't require anything more than that. And so kind of given the situation here where we were, normally we would hopefully have had more time to kind of work through all that in terms of the budget process and everything else, and tax bills, which are going to be going out here in, 2 weeks or something. As Mr. Rogers said, trying to cram all that stuff into a very short time frame when the county's not really had a chance to review it is just something that we can't really recommend that for the taxpayers and for the operation of the county. And so putting it to 5 years is still permitted by statute, and then allows us to kind of get the time to kind of do all that review and make sure that everybody's kind of clear, on the citizen side and on the county side as to, what the reassessment looks like, and then it would be effective for not for this upcoming fiscal year, but for the next fiscal year. And then so then this budget, we would not have to advertise an equalized rate because we wouldn't be changing, there would be no change to the assessments. So we could be, the budget that has been presented already was done with that in mind, because again, we didn't have the information, and so that all that can go forward without requiring that additional process.
Okay. So are we going to equalize? Is that,
We don't have the information to be able to provide. So the process, we're supposed to get a land book. That land book has the values. With those values, we can calculate what the equalized rate would be. That rate needs to be provided to the board and advertised in the newspaper and a public hearing held on whatever the rate is. So we just don't have the information. And so the budget that is before you tonight is not contingent upon any reassessment. It is based at the existing value and the existing tax rate. So that's been duly advertised. The reassessment process is required by statute to be separate and distinct from the budget process. And so the motion that was made to delay for 5 years works fine with what we have before us tonight. And frankly, as the county administrator, to not have that information is not something that is advisable. And so I wanted to make it clear in my comments that when that information is provided, it is not something that can be done arbitrarily. It must be advertised, and a public hearing must be held, and the equalized tax rate must be publicized. But as I think we've talked about in previous board meetings, that was not even a conversation I was able to have with the board because we simply don't have the information. I would recommend, if the motion is approved tonight, that you would allow me to bring an update to the board at the next meeting so that we can make sure that even on a 5-year cycle, we have everything in front of us before we start communication to residents.
And I'll just say, we can switch. So next year would be year 5. And then the board can keep it at every 5 years after that if they want to, or they could switch it back to 4 years. You couldn't switch it to 3 years, so you couldn't sort of get back to a 4-year cycle, but then you could then choose to go to a 4-year cycle after this one 5-year cycle.
Your vote, Mr. Patterson?
oh, wait.
No, we're good. Go ahead.
I vote aye, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Hill?
Aye.
My vote is aye also, and thank you very much for that on-time recommendation, Mr. Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So regarding the budget that is before us, I thought it would be also prudent to provide a little context about where we have grown from. So I'm going to ask our financial advisor, Mr. David Rose, to give the board some background information regarding what led us to what we have before us this evening.
Can you all hear me? Okay, thank you. I believe there is a presentation that's up on the screen, can go up on the screen. Is that right? Let's see, is it putting up there? Okay. I would also add that for those in attendance here, certainly through the county, we make copies of this available, so it's public information. It's meant for everyone. So again, Mr. Rogers, does your board have hard copies of this? We brought some. Okay. Do you have a? think while we're waiting, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, again, David Rose from Davenport, Cam Williston is here with me tonight. Kyle Laux has been most helpful, as is your staff folks, and we really appreciate that. I'm going to provide some information and context, and again, by all means, any questions that you have, stop me, and we'll take notes, and if we can't answer them immediately, we'll try to get back to you through Mr. Rogers.
We thank you for being patient and taking this time as we work with our technologies. Thank you.
Looks like we're getting there. All right. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Let me just try to
Thank you.
push forward here. Let's see, maybe see if it works. Okay. You know, is this working or? Okay, that'd be great. All right, thanks, Mr. Rogers. Again, appreciate the opportunity to be here. I don't think I'm going to be that long, so hopefully, you know. But again, Davenport and Company, as you know, has served at times as financial advisor to the county. There's times we've not been involved, but over the last year and a half or so, as you know, and some of the folks recognize us and vice versa, we've been here and we've been very candid about both the things that haven't been done, have been done, need to get done, and some of the concerns. With all that said, there has been considerable progress. I'm going to show you that in the next few moments. At the same time, we're recommending certain things that are part of your budget process and some things that come after your budget process, all with the goal of making this county financially stronger, sustainable, more transparent, and again, ultimately giving the comfort to the people behind me and the people that are here and not here as it relates to overall finances. So with that said, before you turn that, Keith, just again, we've made progress since the 2026 RAN. I'll talk about that. We've made headway with increasing the county's fund balances, which again are at the root of a lot of the problems financially and caused the RAN to be needed in the first place. We're going to talk a little bit about the 27 budget and how the overall fiscal plan fits in there. And as I said, we're going to give you some recommendations for next steps. Okay. So since the 2026 RAN was issued, you may recall I said that may not be the end of the RANs that we need to do? Well, the good news is it is the end. We do not need to do a RAN going forward. And in fact, we were able to, ahead of time, pay off the 2026 RAN on March 31st. So while it was due basically at the end of June, that is no longer outstanding. It's been paid off. In addition, we did some interim funding to help us move forward with some of your capital projects. So if we go to the next page, all right. Again, we were at the low point when we did the initial RAN. At the same time, we then did a second one, but we also made sure that we took care of certain funding that will trigger dollars that can come in through some of the other mechanisms, including some of the state programs and some of the grants. And so those things were taken care of. I think it's important to point out that everything that we're doing going forward is to minimize and avoid going backward. So if you go to the next page, you'll start to see what I'm talking about. So if you go a little bit further down, Keith, so they can see there it is, perfect. Okay. So you'll notice in 2024, unassigned fund balance was basically a shade over 2 million. At the end of 2025, it more than doubled. So again, the unrestricted cash likewise more than doubled, and in the rate that we're going in 26 and beyond, that's going to continue to rise. That's why we no longer need to do a RAN going forward, because again, we have adequate fund balances to take care of shortfalls throughout the year that every local government has. You'll notice here on the far right-hand side, it shows that our unassigned fund balance was at a low point of like 8%, and right now, at the end of fiscal year 25, it's about 16%. That is not even where we want to be. So again, we're climbing back into a place that we want to go to, like where we were back in 2021. So if you go to the next page, we've got several reasons why fund balance is important. I don't think I need to belabor that to anybody here again, but the upshot is I think good best practices all agree that having a fund balance, and those dollars, by the way, that are sitting in fund balance actually earn an interest rate if they're kept and maintained with the state program that's run by the state treasurer, and those interest earnings go back into the general fund, so they actually further help minimize in the future rate increases that may be necessary. So it's not as those monies just sit there. They actually earn interest. Right now, they're earning slightly above or below 4%, depending upon what week we're talking about. But again, it's managed by the state treasurer. It's been in place for local governments, called the Local Government Investment Pool. Next page. So I said earlier, wanted you to see where the ratios were. To be exact, it was 7.7% in 2024. Again, 2025, almost 13%, but the peer group median is about 25%. So again, we've got a ways to go, and the goal here is to continue to move upward in subsequent years. Okay, next page, please. All right. So we have a couple observations on the 27 budget. I appreciate what was just discussed and transpired a few moments ago. I think that all makes a lot of sense, again, so that we don't put ourselves in a position where we're looking at the 27 budget with anything other than the information you have at hand right now. As best as we can tell, and again, this is Mr. Rogers' first budget, so again, over time, we'll see if indeed this does, it does happen, but it appears that recurring revenues are in line with recurring expenditures. That's important because, again, that hasn't been the case in previous years. So again, if we are in that mode, we continue to move in that mode. The good news here is that, again, those unassigned fund balances can go higher, and again, that will further strengthen us and give us even more solid footing. Okay, next page. So just wanted to provide where your tax rate is. You all know it very well. Again, this is prior to any reassessment that will occur next year. And you can see again how you compare, with the exception of New Kent, you basically are there in a very solid position. We realize nobody wants to see their taxes go up or the rate go up, but again, just a little bit of context. Of course, Surrey has its nuclear plant, and some others, of course, much larger bases to look at. Okay, next page, if you would. I mentioned a moment ago, if you keep going through there, Mr. Rogers, thank you, that we have some recommendations. And tonight, we are making some recommendations that are basically this. We think the county should memorialize a series of financial policies, and they're important. And I've listed here why they're important. I don't think I have to belabor it, other than I think all of you know that if we have policies and we follow those policies, the chances are that we go off the wheels and go off, as we've done in the past, become very, very small and very unlikely. Not impossible, certainly, but again, we're diminishing the possibility of having problems in the future if we implement the policies that we're going to recommend here and follow them. So if you go to the next page, there are effectively two types of policies. First type of policies are internal controls and reporting, and the second are key financial ratios. That first part, the internal controls and reporting, that is actually being introduced alongside the budget this evening, as I understand. So there's a series of those things that we've been working with your staff on and some folks that, again, will get us into a mode where the checks and balances are there, the transparency is there, and again, it minimizes the chances that the county has problems in the future. The second, again, is those financial ratios. Those are typically put together by ourselves, working with your staff. You'll see a schedule here. We're going to talk about doing that once this budget is done and actually providing that to you sometime this summer once the fiscal year is over. So if we go to the next page, and I'm almost done here, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, these key financial ratios, again, let's see here. Let me go back for a second again. So let me see again. Okay, key financial ratios. As you can see there, establishing targets for fiscal health. I want to make sure we implement those. And so again, right now, we're below those targets, but we're going to talk about doing that in compliance with best practices. Okay. So, keep going. Oh, I think you skipped it right there. If you can go down a little bit. No, the other way, I'm sorry. So I get the full page. Okay. As I mentioned, tonight, along with the budget, there is going to be a series of financial policies that are tied to those internal controls and reporting. And you can see what they're going to do. They're meant to establish procedures to comply with the APA. They're as well creation of budgeting guidelines to make sure that matching revenues meet matching expenditures, and we institute a 5-year long-term financial forecast with each budget so that you can see not only what the current budget looks like, but again, only as good as assumptions, but with various assumptions, you can see what things will look like in the next several years. We do not have that right now. We're recommending implementing that. We're also talking about making sure that all of these policies will then lay the groundwork for what we will do if this is approved by you, and that is the financial ratios. So if you do go next page, okay. What we're hoping for is once the budget is adopted, you can see there, and then once there is a knowledge of the revaluation, which may take several months or what have you, but we'll make sure that with or without that, we're going to recommend a series of financial policies, again, that would be delivered to you sometime early this summer. So with all of that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you.
Mr. Rose, I want to thank you for this presentation, and we have made some steps forward, but it's imperative that we implement other policies and practices and procedures, and that we will maintain a relationship with you and guidance on the direction that we're going.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. Again, as I said to you, and you look back on my presentations, we're not going to solve this issue or issues in just a few meetings. It's going to take a solid, probably a couple of years, but we're moving in the right direction clearly. And so, again, we just wanted to show the public that those steps are being taken. But as I said, we did not know, depending upon where things stood, if we would have to do a third RAN. And as you could tell, we don't. We're not doing it. It's over. It's been done, and we've added to fund balance. So, again, that's been, again, a step in the right direction, and we're moving upward. But again, we just need to make sure that this budget, we monitor it closely, and with those policies, if you approve it, that will help move towards more disclosure, more transparency, so the folks behind me and the folks that are not here will understand and see what is happening basically from a quarter-to-quarter standpoint. So that's our recommendation.
And what you're saying, what we have before us are policies and procedures that should give us some foundation in moving in a positive direction, which these items are very much on an introductory level, which is new to the county's practices, policies, and procedures, as well as the best laid plans. You would project somewhat of a period of maybe 2 years of becoming totally solid and stable.
I'd like to see that, yes. Again, if we follow these, if we implement these policies, when I say we, the county staff and the board, implement these policies, follow these policies, then again, things should move in the right direction. And those policies, though, may not all be, how do I say, popular. Mr. Patterson asked immediately if we can go to, equalization. Well, I will tell you, depending upon what the cash flows and the revenues look like and the expenditures look like, we'll be talking about that. But it's too early to know whether or not equalization is something you're able to do. So again, part of this will be to make sure that whatever tax rate you set is sufficient to make sure that there's existing recurring revenues to take care of recurring expenditures in the future. So that's part of the policies, is to make sure that we see what those numbers look like and we see what the adequate tax rate is. Yes, sir.
And I think we had discussed earlier in this process, it would probably be in the fall of the year before we even begin seeing any documentation that can substantiate that we're verifiable in this process.
Yes, it's going to take some time, because if you think about it, obviously the fiscal year starts on July 1. First quarter doesn't end basically until, the early fall. And then you have to look back and see, okay, what has happened, any variances, any surprises. So it really takes a while, especially us collectively, meaning the county, with this, doing this first time. It probably will take a couple, 3 periods to really have a sense of how things are tracking. So it'll take several months. It's not going to be instantaneous. You can't figure this out within 1 month or 2 months. That's not how it works. But the good news is that if indeed this happens and you see what Mr. Rogers' first budget looks like, and we can see, okay, what surprises were there, if any, good or bad, then as we look to the next year, the next fiscal year, then it's helpful. We then have in the books a real definable series of information that, again, will let us make an even more effective, hopefully, future budget in the 28 fiscal year. So.
And I know this is an open-ended question, but it's not unusual for you to be working with other localities in this similar capacity.
We do it all the time. It's been doing it now for 40-plus years. That's what I do.
Okay. Gentlemen, any questions, concerns, or issues? Given where we've been in hopes of where we're going, I appreciate this effort. It's an effort to show that we're making every possible attempt to become financially sustainable. More than that, verifiable. And verifiability is one of the areas that we definitely need to strengthen. And I think the resolutions and ordinance that we are beginning with tonight, or hope to begin with tonight, will put us on a starting platform for sustainability financially for the near future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, gentlemen? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, what we have is some proposed amendments, and in some of the areas that we've looked at, I think they're all extremely important. However, given where we are financially, with some of the changes that we made and some of the things that we're looking at, I'm very much in agreement with where we have here and what we need. However, I think the highest priority is to look at dealing with the area of the registrar and take on one task at the other and probably defer and look at how we can work through these other tasks. So my suggestion is that we take on one item, and that one item that I think is achievable, I know it's achievable, is working with the electoral office and the register. So my recommendation is that while we consider these others, we defer them and just move on with the motion on taking care of what is most pressing to us this afternoon. And that's my comment on it. I think we have a sound background on our budget. We have a better understanding on where we need to be. I think we've gotten a basis to understand what our needs are, and these proposed amendments are great and something that I don't have any question that we don't need. But I think we need to take on one item at a time that's sustainable and will establish an ongoing progress to show how we're working to maintain at least one area at a time and not take on too much at a time. So my suggestion is that we move on with our recommendation as relates to the register and the areas that need to be addressed with our registrar's office as a #1 priority, not diminishing the need for other recommendations, but let's take on one at a time. And we've heard what their needs are. We've heard what the community has said about the needs. And I think we need to address those, and we can come back and look at, and that's what my suggestion is.
Mr. Chairman, I support the proposed amendment number 4, and 1, 2, and 3. I do not support it this time.
So we'd like to move on with each one, whether we're motion on, will be a consensus that we defer 1, 2, and 3, and definitely move on with item 4, which is very much needed and a high priority.
That would be my suggestion.
What would be your motion in that?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we table proposed amendment 1, 2, and 3, and we move forth with amendment number 4. And with that, we'll direct the county administrator to work with the appropriate staff of the electoral board to determine resources and space needed to prepare, update a budget amount to the Board of Supervisors at the May meeting.
So that's your motion, Mr. Hill?
Yes, it is.
Your vote, Mr. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Patterson?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
so I was reading and trying to follow along at the same time. And out of these proposed amendments here, we're suggesting that we're only picking one?
What we'd like to do is to work with what we know is manageable at this time within the constraints of our abilities financially to sustain them.
Yes, sir. So we're just picking one?
At this time, sir, not that the rest are not important.
Okay. Does the community or the audience, are they aware of what's on this proposed amendments? And what it is that we're choosing from?
We can read each one. We can consider them one by one. There's a motion on the floor, so we do need to act on that motion. But this can be shared.
So if this will be shared, then I guess that would be a point of information or point of clarification as to what it is that we are, what it is that we are selecting and the options of which we have to select from.
Yes, we can put a copy of this in the back so that the public sees this. The motion on the floor, which is number 4 on this, is to direct the county administrator to work with the appropriate staff and the electoral board to determine resource and space needs and to provide that update to the board at the next board meeting.
Okay. And I'm gathering that we're leaning or suggesting to, well, your motion was for number 4, to pick number 4, which is the Office of Elections, the registrar. And what comes with that will be for our Office of Elections to be budgeted for 4 elections, to have an additional 1 full-time position and an office relocation, and to direct the county administrator to work with appropriate staff and electoral boards? Okay. And Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
For items 3, 2, and 1, we're deferring these amendments, or we're tabling them?
We would defer them until we at least accomplish item 1, which I know is imperative that we get done.
Item 1 or item 4?
Item 4,
Gotcha. Yeah, okay.
imperative that we're working that process.
Okay. Well,
Come back to the others.
yes, yes. Well, just for clarification now, Mr. Chair, Mr. Rogers, I'm going to read the other 3 items.
That's fine, sir.
Yes, sir. The third, so item 1, community development, the addition of 1 full-time position within community development to support growth planning and service. Item 2, the volunteer fire department to increase funding to fully meet the requested $100,000 supporting our volunteer services. And number 3, provisions for the certification compensation. Certification compensation, oh, right. So this is for our employees who receive that special certification and they get an additional percentage added to their salary.
And based on what we got, we don't have the exact cost on it, and we're not sure about the increase or decrease of that, but in that particular realm, yes, sir.
So we're saying that we can't pick all of these, we just have to pick one of these?
We'd love to take all of them, but one we need to hold as a priority and implement it and make sure we sustain that, and that's the registrar's office, of course.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And is there a date or time in which we'll circle back to the certification compensation, the volunteer fire department, and community development?
I think as we did in our presentation, we'll continue to evaluate what our resources are and what our unassigned fund balance is. And of course, they're not dead issues that we would take at least, and I'm telling you, at the earliest, the fall of the year. But we need to take care of the register as soon as possible.
Yes.
Be an ongoing evaluation of the budget.
Okay. And Mr. Rogers, you can have this in the packet, and it'll be uploaded later on? This additional information?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Yes, still have a motion on the floor. Mr. Hill, you said aye?
Yes.
My vote is aye, Mr. Chair.
My vote is aye also, and we will continue with this evaluation process to try to identify and strengthen those needs that have been identified, sir. Thank you. Our next item relates to, on page 22, these are significant policies, practices, or procedures that Davenport has reinforced that for us to be able to be sustainability that we adopt. These are areas that we have not adopted or considered, and they have seen them as to be considered as best practices for us to move on to a sustainable future. Mr. Rogers, did you want to comment on these areas?
Yes, I wanted to make sure that we got multiple budget-related items, so I want to make sure we've heard the board's motion on the amendments for the budget. I'm recommending that we take a vote on each budget item separately. So the first item with the amendment would be the resolution to appropriate the funds for the upcoming fiscal year. So if we could have a roll call vote on each one, and I can explain each one as we go down the list.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Rogers, can you explain that one more? Can you explain that, the resolution to appropriate funds?
Yes, so this is a standard ordinance or resolution that a locality does to appropriate the revenues and the expenditures for each fund. And so that is what allows the business of the county to be conducted in the upcoming fiscal year.
So this is the adoption of the budget?
This is the budget for the fiscal year, yes.
Okay. This right now, which is on the table right now for us to vote on, correct?
Yes.
So if there was any discussions to be made on the budget, now is the time for discussions to come forth? Or discussions to be had?
Yes, so the board has considered the amendments to the budget just in the motion, so that was just made, so we have that. And so the recommended motion would be to approve the resolution that's before you.
I guess the motion would really be to approve the budget and the accompanying appropriation resolution.
So the motion before us right now is to approve the actual budget with the approved amendments we just
Yes, sir.
voted on, correct?
Yes, sir.
And out of everything that was in the budget, we made one amendment, which is to support our electoral's office in the relocation, their staff personnel, and what else is it? Relocation, the full-time position. Say it again, sir?
The 4 elections, yeah.
Yeah, and the 4 elections, correct. And to fund them for 4 elections.
So could we have a motion on a item resolution for the appropriation, gentlemen, for 27?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adopt the resolution for the operating budget and appropriations for FY '27.
Your vote, Mr. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Patterson?
Nay.
My vote is aye. Thank you. Our next resolution is on page 26. And that is a resolution to establish the annual tax levy on various classes. Mr. Rogers.
Yes, so this is a corresponding legislation that approves the tax rates for the classes of property. These are all the existing tax rates for the current tax year. There were no changes to this. So we're asking for a motion to approve.
And this is a motion to, excuse me, Mr. Chair, this is the motion to approve that we are not changing the tax rate.
This is a motion to approve and adopt the tax rate, which is this.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha. What'd you say, sir?
That's right, that are unchanged.
That are unchanged. And how will this vote affect what we just, item A? How would that vote affect item A? Us switching from 4 years to 5 years in our reassessment cycle?
This ordinance does not, the motion that was made previously about item A does not impact this ordinance. The budget was built on the existing rates.
Correct.
So could we have a motion on the resolution to establish the annual tax levy, please, gentlemen?
Point of information, Mr. Chair, or can we establish this at another time?
It'd be imperative that we move on with the approval of the budget, and because the tax rate is the same sustainable tax rate that we had last year, and we actually need to move on that so we can move on with our budget process. Matter of fact, all these ordinances are imperative to move on with financial sustainability, which Davenport just emphasized the importance for us following and establish these principles and policies.
Right. And if we were to lower this tax rate, now would be the time to do it? Or now can be a time to do it, Mr. Bosch?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could,
And it's 69 cents on every $100 of assessed value. So our values just went up?
No, sir.
Sir?
Nope.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Can we elaborate on that one more time for the audience?
There's been no change in assessed value. The ordinance that's before you is to adopt all the existing tax rates. The budget has been built on the existing tax rate and the existing assessed value. The action to delay any reassessment activity for 5 years at the board, which just approved, does not impact what is currently before you. Further, I would add that these are the existing rates, and so these rates are the current rates that are in place right now. So no changes being made. It keeps it consistent and is just transparent to reapprove these each year with the new fiscal year and the budget. But these are the existing rates. I'm not sure if this was done last year at budget time, but these are all the ordinance that are typically related to the budget. So even though there's no changes, we wanted to have a complete package before the public and the board this year.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chair.
So we need a motion on the resolution for our tax rates, please, gentlemen, on our annual tax levy.
So move?
That's your motion, Mr. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Hill?
Aye.
My vote is aye also. Our next item, which would be a resolution on our sanitary district, and I'm correct in saying these are no changes in anything that we've had, or am I correct, sir?
That's correct. Similar to the transparency from the previous legislative item, these are our existing utility rates. This is a separate piece of legislation as we have a unique, if you'll notice from our audit, we have a unique utility enterprise fund. So we want a separate piece of legislation to cover the enterprise fund. But these are the existing rates. No changes. So we're looking for a motion to approve the resolution for the sanitary district charges.
And again, Mr. Rogers, you said no changes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm for that.
Mr. Chair, do you need a motion?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Chair, I motion to approve the sanitary district service charge for water and sewer utilities with no changes.
And that's your motion, Mr. Patterson?
Yes.
Your vote, sir?
Aye.
Mr. Hill?
Aye.
And my vote is aye also. And our next item is a resolution to approve fee schedule. This includes Charles City County taxes, utilities, commissioner revenue fees, building and code fees, parks and recreation fees, all fees that are being used to generate any type of funds or revenues in the county. And I don't think it's anything that's different or changed in these rates.
That's correct. These are the same fees. These are the current fees that are represented and compiled in this
I'm sorry.
one resolution.
Page 28.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So they're staying the same, okay.
So similar to the previous ordinances, no changes, but we want the board to act on all of these related items in one comprehensive set.
Okay. Where is the fine for a building without a permit? Where's that at?
Under code enforcement, I'm not sure it's defined on, look on page 29.
I see it right there, second.
Okay.
So work performed without required permit authorization, $16 per 1,000 of job value. So every $1,000, the applicant or the builder is fined $16? Is that what I'm gathering?
Of the value, yes.
Of the value?
And that's no change, right?
Right, there are no changes.
The building fee, I'm sorry, the building permit fee is $100 minimum. Okay.
And Mr. Patterson, and nothing would stop us from revisiting these. We're trying to get this process done so we can move through. If you want to revisit some of them, there's no issue in revisiting these, okay?
Well, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We probably revisit in 6 months.
At any time that you so desire, sir.
Sir. Mr. Chair, you need a motion?
Yes, sir. Resolution to approve fee schedule for 27.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve the fee schedule for FY '27.
And your vote, Mr. Patterson?
Aye.
Mr. Hill?
Aye.
My vote is aye also. And probably one of the most imperative things is we have a policy which Davenport's supporting, and give us accountability on what we should be measuring, how we should be practicing approval of a comprehensive financial policy for fiscal year 27. It has benchmarks, it has specifics on what should be provided, what areas we need to work with, unassigned balance, establishing a minimum target, a total universal of something that's imperative to go along with our presentation for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if you'll recall at the March work session, we went through each of these items one by one. So as you've heard from our financial advisors this evening, this is the recommended step in the process for us to adopt these policies, and not only adopt these policies, but work these policies and procedures. I can tell you that a number of these items are already in place and underway. So again, similar to the previous items, we wanted the board to take action on a package of budget-related items so that we can keep everything in front of us, and as we continue to report out, we have this in a single place. So we're looking for a motion to approve these policies.
I would like to comment, accountability and the ability to produce all these policies may take at least a quarter or so to pull them all together. I can tell you that. However, those will be in place. It will not be an instant August report that you'll be able to see.
I will just add, yes, you're absolutely correct. We have greatly improved our financial reporting. If the board will recall, during the mid-year, we provided a second quarter report. And so as we endeavor to be better with our financial policies and our reporting, that is a report that we can look to see how we are progressing with our financial policies. And so we will have a third quarter report that'll be coming out shortly to see how we currently stack up with these policies. But you are correct, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
And all these policies will take place July 1, correct?
Yes, many of them are already
Already in place,
underway,
okay.
but yes, we are focused on fiscal '27 for what's before us this evening.
Gentlemen, these policies are paramount, and I personally would make a motion that we adopt a resolution to approve comprehensive financial policies for fiscal year '27. And that's my motion, and that's my vote, sir.
Second? Well,
Mr. Patterson?
aye.
Ms. Hill?
Aye.
And I do appreciate your work and your diligence and your support, especially in this last item. It should be something that will increase our verifiability and sustain us to begin our long-term financial stability. Thank you. Madam Clerk. Oh, no, we got a public hearing. No, sir. No, we'll be here for a minute.
The next item is the public hearing for the ordinance to conform with state law requirements for combined water protection.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Our county attorney will provide us with some background context, and then the clerk can call the list of names of people that signed up to speak to the public hearing for this item.
So what you have in your packet, the county has an existing combined water protection ordinance, which already kind of addresses kind of what we're getting at here, which is there were state law changes in 2023 and 2024 relating to kind of land disturbance permits and stormwater permitting. And so those changes were made, like I said, I believe in 2023 and 2024. The combined ordinance that the county had was prepared before those changes went into effect. And so this is just amendments to the existing combined ordinance to make what we have align with the new, like what the state had previously was two separate sets of statutes, one for stormwater and one for land disturbance. They did a combined statute to put everything together, but the way they combined it didn't exactly match up with the way the county had done their combined ordinance. So the changes that we have here is just a restatement of that ordinance. I have black lines that we provided the staff as well that we can have, available to folks to show the changes. But the changes really are to just kind of put both of those schemes kind of under one scheme, which is they're already kind of dealt with through community development. But the changes just reflect putting, land disturbance permits and stormwater permits now are kind of, they're still distinct, but they're all kind of put under one permit procedure. And so the changes are to kind of match up with all that. And then there's some provisions and changes to timelines, enforcement, various different options that the counties can have as to how those things are enforced that were all done to just kind of line up with what the new state code requires. So I'll say, big picture, this was all kind of initiated just in our discussions with Point One as to, they're in kind of various site permit processes. And so part of our ongoing discussions, which we'll get into kind of in administrator's report, was just getting everything on the permitting side for the county as up to date as possible so that when they're making their submissions, they know that everything is kind of square with state law. And so there's no changes here that are specifically tied to data centers or anything like that, but it is just tied to a request that they had so that to make sure that everything we have here lines up with the current state law. So that is, there's a lot of technical changes, but in terms of practical changes for folks trying to comply with those provisions, there's not really much change.
Thank you, Mr. Bosch. So the first resident we have to speak at this during this time is Lloyd Carter. Please note you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, my name is Lloyd Carter. I don't know if you're aware or not, but some of this is being looked at in your new proposed comp plan. My only problem with it was that we need to remember that the Wetland Board is a state organization, that the Chesapeake Bay Board is a federal organization, that our rules cannot or shouldn't override those. And my issues from the past, there have been numerous issues. Pictures have been presented to the Wetland Board. Wetland Board went to the Planning Department. Planning Department went to the Planning Commission, and nothing was done. But all of this was under one person in the beginning anyway, but still nothing's been done. My thing is, it makes no difference what you put in writing if nothing is going to be done about the situations when they occur. Thank you.
Next, we have Tracy Floyd.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't really know where to begin on this one. I've lived in the county almost 30 years now and haven't really seen a whole lot of stormwater management enforcement or Chesapeake Bay Preservation Area enforcement done. Also, I noticed just scanning the ordinance that's in the packet, the tables that are referenced for the fees are not included in the ordinance. Y'all might want to fix that. Be nice to have a complete ordinance. Also, DEQ is revising their stormwater and erosion and sediment control, the combined ordinances, July 1 of this year. So we'll be doing this all over again July 1. So, yeah, I thought that timing was really weird that we're doing it now. I'd also like to point out that the Director of Community Development is the administrator of this program, and to my knowledge, we don't have one. And we are apparently now, if I understood what happened earlier in the meeting, not hiring one. So who then will be overseeing the administration of the Combined Water Protection Ordinance, which includes wetlands, Chesapeake Bay, all of that stuff? Because that's something that's really important to me. It should be really important to everybody because that protects our water quality, our groundwater, our surface waters, the Chesapeake Bay. Just wondering. Blank stares, as usual. No answers. Okay. Well, let's get those tables for the fees included in the ordinance. We'd probably need that. I imagine we're going to have a lot of fees and fines with this Point One project, given that the site has a perennial stream, 3 intermittent streams, tons of Chesapeake Bay preservation areas, and we're still allowing them to develop this massive data center with an on-site natural gas power plant in all of that. Really don't understand how that comports with this water protection ordinance. In fact, it does not at all comply with it. And there was something else I was going to say, and now I've forgotten. Brandy, do you remember? Okay, I guess that will conclude my comments then, since I forgot what I was going to say. July 1, we'll be doing it again. Maybe I'll remember it then. Thank you.
That's the last person that signed up for the public hearing. Do we have any others?
Brandy Moreno. I originally wasn't going to speak on this. Didn't really have a whole lot of time to review it, but after some of what I heard this evening, I'm disturbed, quite frankly. Like Tracy had said, we're going to be doing this whole process over again because DEQ's releasing their new policy July 1. So why? Furthermore, I'm concerned because I'm wondering, was this read by anyone? It seems to me like it was copied and pasted from what is already like through DEQ or previous policy. It doesn't really seem to relate all that much to Charles City, and we are one of the more unique counties when it comes to, you know, environmental, stormwater control, things like that, mainly because we don't really have stormwater control. We rely a lot on the environment for that, you know, the trees, the land, things like that. I'm really disturbed at the fact that the bulk of the responsibility is on the community development director. Well, who's that? And the interim director, is she qualified to do this? And that's no shade on her. But, you know, there are certain qualifications to be able to manage, to be able to be an administrator for this that have to be taken into account, and you're going to assign that responsibility to someone. It should not be someone who does not have the qualifications and experience to do it. And county history has shown time and time again that's exactly what happens. These policies get put in place, and then the people who administer them have zero idea what they're doing, they're not qualified, and then we do it all over again. Maybe this time we should get it right instead.
Any others? Mr. Chair, we need a motion to approve this item.
Council, could you just reiterate the importance of us, even though these may need to be redone in July, that we need at least these updates at this particular point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there'll be updates. There's updates, you know, every year or two, and we'll continue to monitor that and make those changes. But the changes from the last 2023 and 2024 were pretty big structural changes, and so we wanted to make sure that we fix the framework so that everything falls under that. There may be future changes to be made, and we'll try to keep, you know, monitor those along with community development and try to keep them up to date as we can. But this is kind of a big structural change just because it, you know, it's two statutes to kind of one statute. And so we have to make sure that, you know, all that sort of works correctly, and that's what this is aimed to do. And like I said, we'll continue to do that, you know, when there's changes, you know, as there are more changes. But we just want to have, for people making permit applications now, this is as up to date as we can make it.
Okay. Gentlemen, you've heard public comment as well as our presentation from our council as relates to the significance of having these ordinances updated, which seems that it will need to be updated again as soon as we get these in place. So what's your pleasure on approval of this? I know it's imperative if we're looking at people coming in and that we have our policies and standards and procedures at least in compliance. So what's your pleasure, gentlemen?
You got it? No. Okay. I got it. Okay. Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
a motion to approve the ordinance to conform with state law requirements for combined water protection.
That's your motion, Mr. Patterson?
Yes.
Your vote, sir?
Aye.
Mr. Hill?
Aye.
My vote is aye also, and I thank you, Mr. Marsh, for making some steps towards us coming to compliance, some areas that we need some improvements on, which we look forward to doing again in July.
Yeah, June or July? Yeah.
Madam Clerk?
Next item on the agenda is public comment period. Those commenting individuals have 3 minutes. As a group, they will have 5 minutes. The board does not answer questions nor establish dialogue during the public comment period. Please approach the podium when called, state your name and any relevant facts or materials. Written comments and documents may be submitted to the clerk of the board for record. No speaking out of turn or from your seat will be allowed to preserve decorum. Respectful language is required. Board members will not engage in dialogue during public comments, but may refer issues to staff or follow up with the directives at the appropriate time. First, we'll have Ms. Sharon Davis. Okay. Next, we'll move on to Lloyd Carter.
Again on Sunday, as I was sitting there with my son at the stop sign at Roxbury Road and John Tyler Highway, I saw a car coming. We were waiting for this car. The car was making its left, and all of a sudden, a cyclist right up in between everybody, another near miss. And it was just by the grace of God that he didn't get hit. But I say that to say this, VDOT is doing a survey on the 106 corridor, and he's asking us to, anybody go on, do your QR code and take this survey, please. And what I don't understand is though it's specified that it's based on the future land use identified in the county comp plan. Okay, the county comp plan that I know of is 12 years old, and we're working on one. It sounds kind of strange that you would put something out there 12 years old to make a decision on, and another one that you haven't even really made to the planning commission. So I don't know where, what's the good of this, how accurate it's going to be. But please, it's going to affect your property lines if it go by the new ones. There's the 500-foot industrial right-of-way again being proposed in the new one. So you need to take this survey and let them know exactly what you think, how you feel, what's happening, so you'll know what's going on and don't wait until it happens. Thank you.
Mr. Carter,
Yes, sir.
where was that near miss again?
John Tyler Highway and Yo Road and Roxbury. The car came up in the turning lane to make the left like they always do, and the cyclist on the bike path never stopped. They never even slowed down. So, an older guy, I don't think he won't get much older, but anyway, just rode right up. And the car heading west on John Tyler had to stop in the eastbound lane. So it was very near miss. I'd also like to say, if possible, I have a game camera. It costs me $156 a year to monitor it, and I can pull it up on my phone right now and you can see it. I don't know why the county can't get with the Capitol Trail Foundation and the state to even put some type of camera up there to protect the innocent. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Pat Davis.
Hi, I'm Pat Davis, and I'm here again requesting permitted use of data centers in M1 and M2 zoning be reversed. The decision to make data centers a by right use in M1 and M2 zones has created a situation with point 1 that allows a proposal of far more than a conventional data center. Basically, point 1 is not just a data center. It's an accessory to heavy industrial facilities, a natural gas facility, which is a vague term that can mean anything from a gas meter to a full-blown gas power plant, an electrical substation, and 2 natural gas turbine yards, one of which is situated in a parcel zoned M1, light industrial. By right permission for a data center should not be interpreted to automatically allow industrial infrastructure that fundamentally changes the nature of the operation. Zoning ordinances and permitting exist for times like this when use crosses the threshold from routine to irregular. This project needs to be properly reviewed for environmental and noise impact rather than give automatic approval. Less than a year ago, Charles City residents fought to preserve the quality of life we were promised. It's frustrating to now find ourselves in the same position again, having to defend our peace and quiet. The board should require intense review of noise, air quality, and environmental impact before this project moves forward under the by right umbrella. Zoning works only if we respect its limitations. By right must not be stretched to cover uses it was never intended to allow. If the April 2024 amendment to the zoning ordinance had never taken place, we wouldn't be in this situation. We need to reverse data centers as a permitted use in parcels zoned M1 and M2. Thank you.
Brandy Moreno.
Brandy Moreno. So I'd like a little bit of clarity for myself and for the public. When are there going to be public hearings for the power infrastructure being proposed along with point 1? Because if there's no hearing planned, that raises some serious concerns. You see, data centers, sure, they might be by right. But that doesn't mean that everything associated with them, including gas turbines, power plants, Dominion substations, also falls within that by right. That's not how the zoning works. That's not how by right works. There's clear legal distinction between accessory uses and separate principal uses. Backup generators and internal systems qualify, sure. They are a part of operations. But large-scale infrastructures, like those substations, Dominion Energy, things connected to the grid, gas transmission facilities, and gas-fired power plants, those aren't accessories. They're independent, high-impact, heavy industrial use. See, if those uses are treated as by right with no special use permit and no public hearing, then what happens is fairly simple. The zoning is being expanded without going through legally required amended processes. Public review, no such thing, it's bypassed. And precedent is being set that allows major utility infrastructure to slip through by being covered and labeled as a data center. There's another issue that needs to be addressed with this. Who exactly is overseeing these projects on behalf of the county? I'm not referring to Bowman or Timmons or Sands Anderson. I'm referring to who at this county is observing this project, who has the qualifications to do so. The point person in this project needs to be someone who has the understanding of the scale and complexity of this project. Even more concerning is the lack of transparency about that role, whoever that is, their involvement, and the lack of organization overall. For projects of this scope and impact on land use, infrastructure, and public resources, the public deserves qualified oversight with full transparency. Not just hopeful words and pats on the back about transparency. So I'll ask again, when will the county hold public hearings on power and gas infrastructure tied to these projects? And if there aren't any, then why not? And who here is the contact person? Thank you.
Rick Schoen.
Rick Schoen. I want to speak tonight about budget monitoring, since we've got projects that are coming on board. What I wanted to talk about was how you monitor these projects going forward, just on a standard basis. This is a standard AIA document, Architects Institute, the way these are normally done. This project is a $2 million project, similar to what we're going to do for Ruthville and some of these other plants. And what you do is you put a dollar amount down here. That's what you work with. Page 2, if you turn to that $2 million is broken down about 30 steps. That's how you monitor the project. Every one of these steps is monitored as it goes forward. We don't have people in the county who can do that. There are companies that do that, as was just mentioned. And what we need to do is we need to hire professionals to help us do this, because people in public works, they can fix machines with spit and chewing gum. But you know what? Budget monitoring and construction monitoring are two things they probably aren't real good at. And what would happen is when you get a bid in from a contractor, you take it to an independent person who knows what they're doing. They take a look at the cost to make sure that they're appropriate. And if they are, then you can move forward. The cost for that could be somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 to do that. Then what happens as the contract moves forward, and you should be moving for a guaranteed maximum price contract. A little bit of a misnomer, it's not guaranteed, things do change, but you don't want to go cost plus. That's harder to monitor, and it can be more expensive. But what you do is by having these people come through, review the budget, understand the contract cost is correct, make sure you also on top of that build in a contingency, which is probably 5 or 10% of the overall budget, to make sure that if there's an overrun, and there's always overruns, that at least it can be handled within some modicum of at least you've made a budget to take care of that. But you have to monitor that as well. What scares me, I shouldn't say that, what concerns me is that when Mr. Rogers had his meeting 2 weeks ago about who was going to look this over, somebody from Public Works was going to do this. I don't think anybody in Public Works has the capability to properly monitor these projects. There's an independent group that can do this. They can inspect it on a monthly basis, and you make sure as it goes forward, you're paying for work that's been done. Even with a guaranteed maximum price contract, there can be additional costs that are going to be incurred. And that happens all the time because there are unknowns. And it will be in your contract if the contractor says, no, what's under the ground? You know, there are things he's going to run into, and you will have to pay for those. But again, you've probably made some allowance for that. But what you want to make sure of is that as you go through each of these 30 items, as it's tracked on a monthly basis, you're paying for work that's done. If the work is going over budget, you know about it before it's done. It's not the total amount that you're looking at. Well, the limiting factor is not the total amount of the budget. I haven't spent my $2 million yet, so I must be done. I must be okay. I still have money, I still have checks in my checkbook. The answer is you've got to watch these projects, you've got to watch them going forward, and you've got to have somebody who knows what they're doing. The added cost of doing that could be $40,000. It beats multi-million-dollar cost overruns. Thank you.
Jeff Plies. Jeff Plies.
Jeff House. First thing I want to say, y'all need courteous to each other. If one of you has a question, you know, you really need to address it in a courteous way, because everybody has a question, everybody wants an answer. Now I'm gonna move on. Point one, what I don't understand, when Diode was coming in, we were requiring them to provide us with how they're getting their water, and they were gonna have to pump it in. But now we're gonna allow point one to drill a well, and I'm in my backyard. I mean, it's not far. But why are we allowing them to drill these wells into our aquifers where Diode was going to be able to pump theirs in? So that's something we really need to look at. And the turbines, I sat on runways with these jet engines turning up, and that's what we're going to be listening to with these two turbines. It's going to be nonstop. I've got ringing in my ears 24 hours a day from it. So is that something we really want to look at? And my final point is, if our budget, and I hope it is where you say it is, why are we going to negotiate down prices to get them closer to 40 cents for the personal property, the tax for the personal property? And I don't know if 40 cents is the line or not, but I'll use 40 cents, put them at 65 with the rest of us. If our budget is where it needs to be, and looking forward, we're in good shape, why do we need to give away the farm? Okay, thank you.
Tracy Floyd.
I'm Back on my broken record about the wetlands here at the Point One site. I feel like I'm not really getting through. I'm going to try a different tact this time. The site plan has, on one of its pages, current use, I think it's the cover page, and it says vacant land. And boy, does that grate me. I mean, that land should be looked at from your perspective as infrastructure, because those wetlands act like stormwater management infrastructure that is working for the county for free. And now we're going to fragment it and develop it and then put man-made structures on it, on something that's already doing its job for you for free. And I think everyone can agree that when your finances are in a less than ideal situation, that free stuff is really great. Because once you fragment it and you bring in man-made systems that can never do the job as well as natural systems can, that becomes a long-term problem for the county. The developer manages the site, the county inherits the long-term consequences of what they're doing. And that doesn't even begin to go into, what is this going to do to the groundwater? Has anyone even thought about the fact that that site has a groundwater seepage, which means the groundwater and surface water interact. So anything that's discharged on that site, whether it's nanofluids, which we've spoken about before, or any other kind of stuff that's used in the cooling systems, and I know some people say, oh, it's just antifreeze or glycol. Not all the time. They're using newer technologies now, and we don't know how these forever chemicals and these other things will affect us, probably cancer, if not other problems. And the air emissions from the stacks from these natural gas power plants, that then comes down in the rainfall, which goes into the groundwater. So what is the county's plan if this project contaminates our groundwater? Or if they end up using more well water, then, well, we don't really know what they're going to use. I've been told a few different things, but let's say it's a closed loop system. They're still going to have to add water. So they're going to be drawing, I assume, out of the well for that. What if they draw too much water? Are we all just going to pack up and move out of here? Because I don't know anybody's going to buy our property if our water's contaminated or we don't have any water. Has the county factored that in at all? And if I could, Jessica, just real quick, I remembered what I was going to say about the stormwater ordinance, and congratulations on passing an incomplete ordinance, by the way. You left the fee tables off. The ordinance wasn't even in there. The standard for the RMA in the Commonwealth is 100 feet. I don't know who in the county decided to make it 25 feet, but that is pitiful. There is not another locality in the Commonwealth that has a 25-foot RMA. That really needs to be changed. And maybe when we readdress this in July, when the new changes come out from DEQ, we'll discuss that again. But it should be 100 foot for the RPA, 100 foot for the RMA, and they begin at, and this is not clearly stated in the ordinance either, at the landward edge of not the water body, but the water body and its adjacent wetlands. So at the edge of the dry edge of the wetlands, that's where that 100-foot begins. That is not how I have seen it presented. So that's going to need some examination too. And I have some handouts for you guys. But thank you for the extra time, Jessica.
My pleasure. Jared Klein.
I also have handouts for y'all.
So before going into the handouts, I just want to say congratulations, County, on the successful election on April 14th. I don't know how we're going to add a fourth member, whether we're going to get a longer table, you're all going to be scrunched together. Jesse, maybe the fourth member will sit there, and you'll sit down here. We don't bite, but I'll let y'all figure that out. However, I will ask that if there could be, perhaps in the county administrator's actual updates, something maybe monthly, how the county is transitioning to this new form of government. That would be greatly appreciated so that the citizens can stay on track. Now, my handout. I've recently, we had that meeting about 2 weeks ago where I talked about the budget and the proposed budget for Charles City County fiscal year 27. And I, prior to that meeting, just in the parking lot, looked at some numbers across other counties, and I thought I would do a actual deeper dive into these other counties and how their budgets compared to our budgets. Now, so what I've done is I've essentially looked at fiscal year 26 for Craig County, Bland County, our county, Charles City County, King and Queen County, Rappahannock County, Matthews County, and Madison County. And all these populations of these counties in Virginia are roughly the same, with the exception of Madison County, which is about double the size of Charles City County. And looking at fiscal year 26, there's a couple line items that really stick out, and I've highlighted these. Additionally, if there's any citizens in this room watching that would like my handout, happy to give you my research as well. But from that, notably, one of the line items that stuck out is y'all's budget, the Board of Supervisors. In fiscal year 26, it was $315,243. In other counties, though, so Bland County, same population, more Board of Supervisors for that matter, it was 183. And in King and Queen County, it was 86. Seems to be between 2 and a factor of 4 over what these similar counties are. The next line item I found interesting is the county administrator budget, your budget. Last year, it was $723,000. There isn't a county of similar size that has a budget that high, and I don't know why, and I don't understand it either. I've looked at the line items, and I can't comprehend why it is that high. I mean, for example, King and Queen County has pretty much the same population as our county, and their county administrative budget is only $167,000, which is about a fourth. The next line item is the Commissioner of Revenue line item. Again, other counties of similar size hover around $250,000 to $300,000, and yet our county is at $581,000, double for that matter. And again, I look at these budgets and I'm not really understanding why we are spending so much on these line items. Our next one, and I feel sorry for the guys in the back that have to hear this, but our IT department is $1.144 million. And I looked at all the other IT departments across all the other counties, and I could not find one that was even similar, that had a population less of like 30 to 40,000. And so counties of similar size were hovering around 150,000. So that's like a factor of 7 to 8 times. I mean, what are we spending in IT that costs so much more than all these other counties? For that matter, our software contracts are more money per that one line item than other counties spend in their entire IT department. And then additionally, my last one I'll point out is the Parks and Rec department. We are spending last fiscal year $570,000, and other counties of similar size are only spending between $80,000 and $100,000. Now, notably, y'all have passed the tax rate of 0.69 cents, and it's the same as last year, and I get that. However, all these other counties have a much lower tax rate, anywhere from 50 cents to 60 cents. We are much higher than these similar sized counties, and it's because of this exorbitant spending. I think y'all should reassess this tax and you should reassess the budget. My last point is county administrator. This is your slide for point 1. It literally says point 1 as an update. That is unacceptable. There is more white space on this slide than anything else. This should be covered with updates. Point 1 is a multi-million-dollar, once-in-a-generation project coming to this county, and this is not suitable. Please do better. Thank you.
Martha Harris.
Good evening. I expressed concerns last month, speaking on behalf of the group, by the way. I expressed concerns last month about the chief of staff position and the lack of detailed information that I received when I questioned that selection. I voiced quite a few questions. It looks like someone would have gotten back to me by now with some answers. And back to the forensic audit. Have you all reviewed it yet? I know last month, 2 of you indicated that you had not read it. And if you have read it, what have you done to address the incomplete, non-factual information that was provided to the judge via the CPA? And I spoke with you, Mr. Rogers, today and a couple of weeks ago about the binding agreements that are being handed out to the taxpayers down in Mount Zion area. Quite a few of them have called me about those agreements because they are not written properly. And I agreed to meet with you to figure out how we can have these people informed, because a lot of them are not signing those agreements, as you indicated to me as well. As far as our assessments, one piece of property that I have, the value escalated 161%. 161%. I attempted to call the Commissioner of Revenue to request an appeal. Went back and forth emailing her. She asked me to call the assessor from Chesterfield County. I called him. He never got back with me. Finally, I received an email from the Commissioner of Revenue instructing me to contact the county administrator. And she stated, the Commissioner of Revenue has nothing to do with the assessment process, for the county is the one who hired the assessor. The leaders in this county must get on one accord. You all must collaborate. I think that was evident tonight when you all talked about the assessment and the fact that you all really don't know what's going on with it, and you, I guess, kind of sort of tabled it. But we just have to. We've got to do better. We've got to do better. And the assessments, the way they were done, added excessive stress to people. They were inconvenient. People wasted gas about $6 or $5 a gallon, coming up here to do an appeal. And then they had their assessments reduced. Now, when are we going to find out that something is not right? They did the same thing for personal property. People came up, the ones who came up had theirs reduced. That's not fair. That is not fair for the numerous people who did not come up. And they may have been elderly, they may have been disabled, they may have been working individuals. And just because they did not take their time to come and do an assessment, an appeal, or to have their personal property reviewed, does not mean that there was not a problem. Once 5, 6, 10, 20 people came up, there should have been a sign that something was done wrong. And you all did a resolution regarding the personal property taxes and the ones that were late and the ones that have not been received. Mr. Patterson, you asked for a resolution regarding the ones that were done incorrectly. We haven't heard any updates regarding that second request for a resolution. Now, Mr. Davenport painted a pretty picture tonight. Oh, we are doing great. We have money now. How much of that money is actually from that $8 million loan? How much of that money that we're doing so great, how much of that is really that $8 million loan? And how much of it is actual money? There's a big difference in my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, but there's a difference when you're bragging about loan money and when you're bragging about actual money. Thank you.
Thelma Whitehead.
Good evening, Thelma Whitehead. Lot going on. Okay, first I want to recognize whoever was in charge of when I spoke at the last meeting about the tree removal at the social center and the trash. It took about a couple of weeks and the trees were removed from the playground. So I felt a whole lot of relief for the children that was out there playing. I appreciate whoever did that. The second thing I want to talk about, the vote for the fourth member. The citizens have spoken. Not only the citizens that sitting out here, but the citizens have spoken. And for each district, you all see where the citizens have spoken, that they want to change, we need a change, all for the better. Tonight, sitting here and listening, the word transparency has been used quite frequently, and that is what we need. And I think that we need to have somebody that is educated, that want to get educated, that has time to do research about all these topics that we are discussing, because there is no clarity coming from here. Mr. Patterson, I hate to keep calling your name, but I got to put credit where credit is due. You seem to engage all the time in asking questions. Mr. Hill, you seem to agree with, I'm still confused a little bit about you, but when you don't ask questions or you can't explain to the citizens out here, we have a problem. And we need a fourth person that's gonna do that for us, that's gonna research it, that's gonna look into things and give us good news as well as bad news. And frankly, I almost feel that our county is getting kind of divided. But speaking personally for myself, I don't care what color the fourth person is. I really don't. I want somebody that's going to do the job right. I don't want a cousin. I don't want a friend. I want somebody that is willing to do the job right. And that's what we need. And as for the taxes, some people haven't gotten their taxes straight since last year, but we already got new taxes. We need to work on that. Thank you.
Antoinette Jackson.
I really would like to just step back some time and hear other people talk. But I've just got a couple of points. The gentleman that came up and addressed the fact about having a special project manager, that was what I was thinking. We need somebody that knows what they're doing, and this person that's going to be over this Director of Community Development, he should ask HR, somebody, to start searching for a special project manager, and it not be the people that are in utilities. We know utilities can't handle that type of position. I mean, you know, let's spend money wisely. If we have to spend $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 on a special project manager, we should do it. And then again, point two, they said taxes are going up, but the assessed value did. So you're going to pay a higher tax because your property went up. So yes, taxes are going to be higher. And I just want the best for this county, but I thought the data center thing was done with, but it's not. It's coming on back in. So What can we say? I don't know what else to say. I'm a preacher. I'm not nothing else but that. But anyway, that's all I have to say.
Judy Altman.
I just wanted to say that the citizens of Charles City County recently had the opportunity to vote on what they wanted. They had opportunity to voice their opinions, and 3/4 of the voters made it clear that they were not happy with the current situations. We don't like the current state of the finances in this county. We don't like the fact that data centers are being pushed on us. We don't like that solar farms are worth the destruction of the land that they sit on. I just want to know, what is the cost of something that can't be rebuilt? A structure can be rebuilt, but you cannot replace water quality or quiet. You cannot replace displaced wildlife. You cannot replace land that has been holding itself together for millenniums without your help. If you build without respect for what's already there, you're not creating value, you're taking it. Most of you are old enough to remember the movie Network back in 1976. Back then, Peter Finch played the part of a man who became so disgruntled with the state of affairs that he stood up and he declared, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore." And I think that's what you did. Good. Thank you.
Bill Myers.
How you doing? My name is William Myers. I'm a real estate broker and have been for over 50 years. And when I got my reassessment notice, of course, I took aim at it. I said, boy, look at this. How'd they come up with these numbers? I sell real estate. As I said, over 50 years, I've been licensed as a broker, state of Virginia. So I said, I don't know how in the world this man came up with these numbers, but I'm going to find out. So I did call and I did make an appointment. I went down to talk to him, and I thought everything would be swell. But he was adamant. He was not. He was a real jerk. You know, don't want to talk about it. I know I'm right. I said, sir, where'd you get these numbers? Because would you just take a formula and decide that that would be the okay thing to do? He said, no, not that way. He said, a matter of fact, they had the square footage wrong on my home. And I made mention of that. I said, I don't know how this got changed. And anyway, so the meeting didn't go swell. As a matter of fact, I took a handful of comparables. I'm sure y'all know what comparables are. That's where you come up with the price on real estate. And I took homes that had sold recently, or as recent as I could find, similar square footage, similar, and amount of land. And he said, well, I don't need to sell those comps. Do you know what Zillow is? And I said, Zillow. I know of it. And he says, well, let's put your house on you can punch it, put any address on it. And so he puts my address in and pushes something. By then, I was ready to leave. Like I said, he had a few things to say that I just didn't care to hear. I mean, it wasn't like he was right, I was wrong. He just wasn't going about it I don't, I'm kind of jumping from one thing to another. I heard y'all say you didn't know who was in charge of hiring someone to do the reassessment. Whoever it was should have at least made sure that the man was licensed. He's not. Not licensed by the state of Virginia to be an appraiser. Had some history that he was, but when he did this job, his license expired back in July 31st of 25. So he was not licensed. Anybody's gonna come out and put a price on your property needs to be up to date on what they're doing, and also licensed. My God. So anyway, I thought this needed to be brought to y'all's attention.
Sir, can you state your name again?
William Myers, Myers.
Is that for the board?
Can be.
That is the last speaker that has signed up. Do we have any others?
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Bill Hopke. You guys have got to stop patting each other on the back over this repayment of the RAN. It really is ridiculous. I mean, the math is complicated. You borrow $8.5 million, you pay off $5 million, you replenish some of the fund, and you're proud of it. And what you did is you borrowed money against assets of the county, assets that don't have value to support the amount of money you borrowed. You rationalized it by saying, well, we put the money in, therefore we should be able to borrow it back out. Okay, so let's just take market 5. Love it. It's great. But it was valued at a little over $2 million as rationale to borrow that money. You couldn't sell it for a nickel today. It produces no revenue. The only thing it does produce is about a $100,000 loss a year. $100,000 loss a year. Who in their right mind would buy that? No investor that I know of. So I just am really appalled at the fact that Davenport is the one up here talking about metrics or ratios of debt to assets. The assets they're valuing, they value. Either that or you guys do it for them, and the values are way off. So they're supporting or rationalizing the ratios on really fake numbers. I would suggest you get rid of Davenport. They stand up here and tell you that the reason the county's so messed up is because they're a part-time financial advisor. Doesn't that embarrass you? That he says, well, when we're working and you're paying us, you're fine. When we're not working for you and you're not paying us, you messed it all up. But we're here to save you. That's just not a good financial partner, in my opinion. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that concludes public comment period. The next item on the agenda is the county administrator's report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the first item related to point 1, I will defer to the county attorney to provide the update, and then I will continue my report.
Kind of following on from last month's meeting and the meetings that we've had with point 1, I guess, a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago now. We're continuing to have, Chris McKenzie from our office is having regular meetings with their council to kind of work through the items that are related and kind of to site plan and other use-related questions. And I'll kind of run through those quickly. One of them is, we have this discussion about the combined water protection ordinance, which was adopted tonight. There's another item, which is they have proposed a number of third-party review policies related to their site plan submissions. We are in the process, and building officials and community development is in the process of reviewing what their requested policies to make sure that they work with how we work. So these would be policies that wouldn't just apply to point one, they would apply to any other substantial developer that has submissions that are fairly complicated. There's a common practice in most larger localities to say, they can have a third party kind of review those and provide a report. And then as long as they kind of meet the criteria that we set on those policies, we can review those and rely on that information. So that's still in process with Chris and with building official and community development. And we expect we'll hopefully have, there's a couple of different policies for the different parts of the site plan submissions. We'll hopefully have that. We kind of hope to have it done for this month. There's still some review to be done, so hopefully for next month we'll have policies to bring before the board and for you guys to consider for approval. The other item of substance is there's been a zoning determination letter request from the developer that relates to their use of this. As folks know and has been discussed, that the data center use there is a by right use, but there's certainly been questions raised about there's this kind of, what they describe as a laydown yard or something like that, where all these kind of, natural gas turbines that they're going to go. Their proposal here is that they're going to have, they can't have Dominion Power online quite yet, and so they propose this as what they're saying is an accessory use, which is, whatever these turbines are going to be to provide them power during that period. So staff is still kind of reviewing that request. We've had some discussions with our councils as to what exactly that, if we're going to have that be considered as an accessory use, we kind of need to know what exactly is being, the scope of what that is. So that's a request we've made to them. There's still some information to be gathered there. But that's a kind of an ongoing process to coming from the planning folks as to what that zoning determination request has been. We've told them that, if they're going to give us a kind of a general request, then they're probably going to get kind of a general answer. If they want to give us more specific details about what they want, then we can have a more detailed answer to that request. The only other item is they did provide to us information, kind of a proposed scope of build out and what that would look like in terms of taxable, property. That's kind of the first step in terms of the board considering, a tax rate. Obviously, that tax rate would not just affect these guys, but other data centers as well. But in terms of a financial review of what the impact might be of different, tax rates and stuff, we need that information. That information has been provided to Davenport to kind of build out a model on that. They've done that for lots of other localities when they're considering these kind of tax rate considerations. So that's in process, and hopefully we'll have something here in the next couple of months. But that is all I have in terms of the latest on data center report.
All right, thank you. As it relates to a financial update, I know that we have approved the budget for fiscal '27 and all the associated ordinances, so I want to thank the public for attending all of the community meetings and the board for the deliberation thus far. In relation to how we are continuing to monitor and track fiscal '26, I think that it is prudent to mention that the general fund, which contains most of the county's departments and agencies, is about $2.5 million less than the prior year. And so that is representative of efficiencies and cost reductions that we identified as a staff, trying to move forward in a sustainable manner. So with that, the March budget versus actual report is on the county website under our financial reporting. Of note, in the March report, you will notice in our one-time revenues, we have received the one-time payment for AES, and as was adopted by the board, the one-time revenues have been primarily dedicated for the restoration of fund balance. So the bulk of those funds have come in at this point in the fiscal year. Additionally, I just want to remind everyone that we will continue, in addition to budget versus actuals, to continue to do our quarterly projections. In the quarterly projections for the next quarter, we will also have an update from our treasurer included in that report, which will detail the status of delinquent tax collection. I know that the treasurer's office has been working on improving our delinquent collection, and so in the updated report, we will have numbers for the delinquent tax collected to date and any remaining outstanding delinquent tax collections that we're pursuing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Gentlemen, comments?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I've been hearing a lot about the reassessment, and I think it's something we need to look at. You know, I recommend that we ask the county administrator to manage the updated assessment process and coordinate with the Commissioner of Revenue to come and give us an update next month. So I think that would be good for the citizens to get an update on the reassessment. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Teal. Mr. Patterson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, first, let me say I agree with my colleague here, Mr. Hill, and his request to have you said a meeting?
It's to have the county administrator just kind of manage the update and coordinate with the Commissioner of Revenue, and we get a report, have Commissioner of Revenue come and give us a report next month.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, definitely agree with Mr. Hill, and I would also, I guess in conjunction with what he says, or if we can work it out somehow, request a work session with our Commissioner of Revenue, definitely before the start of the new fiscal year, this upcoming fiscal year, if that's possible.
What you got in mind, Mr. Patterson, so I understand what you're saying?
As far as the work session with our Commissioner of Revenue?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Q&A, sit-down work session with the Commissioner of Revenue. Definitely, we can sort most of these questions that are geared towards us. I believe that our Commissioner of Revenue will be best to address these.
Okay.
Quick side note, also in the back table, there's a VDOT survey QR code that can be found on the back table. It's the same survey that Mr. Carter came during the public comment and informed us about. Take a look at that survey. That would be much appreciative. So, yeah. Yeah, you're right. So, yeah, I definitely agree that a competent, qualified person or group to oversee the data centers is definitely needed. We initially, we had acquired a group, or we hired a group, the Timmons Group, to help with our community development. There's only one person in that department, so you definitely have to bear with us with that department. We're not at full capacity as we should be. However, that group, the Timmons Group, the idea of hiring them or bringing them on board was to help relieve some of that back workload or that backlog of work that can be found easily in our community development department. Although we may, Mr. Rogers, need to reevaluate that and take a second look and see if Timmons is actually a good fit. I know when we had first talked about them, Timmons was I guess, for lack of better words, a knee-jerk reaction. However, there were some other options that are currently still available and out there for us to do that a group could take on of this project size with these. And I would like for the county or for us to revisit those options. Tonight, I did not approve the budget. Last year, I didn't approve the budget either. Certain aspects within the budget last year I didn't agree with. Certain aspects in the budget, this proposed budget now, that I don't agree with. We're not going to go line by line. The budget's already approved. However, in the future, when we are doing these budget proposals, what I would like to see, and I think what the board needs to see, are the justifications and supporting documentations for these numbers that are being proposed. Where are you spending this money? Where is this money coming from? How would you spend this money? And the director's remarks. To hear strictly from the department heads or the agency heads, I believe is very important and vital for a board to get their information straight from the horse's mouth, straight from the department head, what it is that that particular department or agency is facing, is requesting, and some of the challenges that they may need to overcome. That this budget season, or this go around, I did not see. And again, for this to be a $48-some million budget, it's lacking, my English teacher called it the filling, the beef. It's lacking the beef, right? Again, supporting documentation is definitely needed to make these type of decisions. And from my standpoint, I did not see the supporting documentation in here justifying these numbers and requests. I did have I did have a quick inquiry to the non-departmental budget under professional services / other that was totaling, that's proposed $195,000. And that question is simple. What would that $195,000, what is that going to? Who is that going to? And what are these professional services / other that can be found on page 67 or the non-departmental part of the budget? If it's possible to have.
It's for landfill monitoring.
Landfill monitoring? So, right. So with things like that, right, landfill monitoring, I think it would be best if it was labeled landfill monitoring. If this $195,000 is going towards landfill monitoring, then it should say landfill monitoring. I think there's a lot of terminology, there's a lot of wiggle room, if you will, for this budget to go any way possible, because there's no words behind the numbers. There's no justification, you know? So if it is going for landfill monitoring, and if that's going to be the case next year, then I would like for it to say landfill monitoring and not professional services. So is the entire $195,000 going towards landfill monitoring? Yes. So it kind of makes it a little rocky when we are calling it something else other than what it is. And then that's just one line item, but that's one of many of the issues that I have with this budget. Although it's already approved, moving forward next year, I think it's much, much appropriate to have supporting documentation. This is your first budget here, but this is my first budget that I have seen lack of supporting documentation justifying these numbers. And I think we need to do a strict job of monitoring these numbers this fiscal year, now that this budget is approved, to ensure that the money that is allocated is going directly to where it's supposed to be. Mr. Bosch or Mr. Rogers, the zoning determination letter for point 1. We're waiting on several documentations to be signed. That's the zoning determination letter. That is the, I guess, performance agreement or the site agreement. Is that the right terminology, the site agreement, or is that two separate?
That's, well, there wouldn't be a siting agreement. The siting agreements usually are related to solar projects.
Okay.
There would be a development agreement if we get to a place where we set a tax rate and then they're asking for incentives or other things kind of in related to that tax rate, then there would be a development agreement. So the first step is setting the tax rate, and then if they come back and are asking for, there's a variety of incentives, then we have a development agreement to sort of say, these are the things that we want if you guys want incentives or locking in rates or things like that. So that'll be, once we're beyond the tax rate, then that would be the step beyond that.
Okay. And next month at the Board of Supervisors meeting where we're getting the data center update, was there a documentation that was going to be signed and presented at that month? Did I hear you correctly?
We will hopefully have the third-party review policies.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which again is not specific to point 1, but is just kind of like this other update is like, we want to have the best policies in place for those folks, but also other large developments.
Okay. And lastly, to circle back to that qualified personal group to help usher in this project, would it be safe to say that will be funded by the actual data center themselves? Mr. Rogers, Mr. Bosch, will we have to foot that bill? Will that be a position that we should make an amendment into this budget to add that, to add those funds to take care of that firm or person or group? You understand what I'm trying to say, or what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the current budget, we couldn't, because we don't have those, there's not revenues related to that project yet.
Right.
But it would be, I mean.
Right. But to bring on that, for lack of better words, project manager, right? To bring that person on, that's not budgeted in this current budget that we just approved. However, if we were to do something like that, that can be an amendment made to this budget to have that entity funded.
I thought their original question was whether the county would pay that or the developer.
Yeah, I kept going because I didn't get the answer to that, so I just kept on.
Typically, I would defer about the third-party agreement. I know that the attorneys are working on that, but typically that is a cost that can be paid by a developer.
Okay, right. And that's something that's not uncommon.
No, that's not uncommon at all. In fact, some development, the owners elect to do so for speed or various reasons, so it's not uncommon.
Gotcha. Okay. And Mr. Chair, I believe that's it. Outside of, again, the VDOT surveys in the back, take a snapshot on your phone of that QR code and fill out that survey. Thank you, Mr. Carter, for bringing that to our attention. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate all your input and your diligent work and your comments. And if there's no further business, we be adjourned. Thank you.